That's really nice. I really like this plan.
So does Jen.
Once celebrated as the youthful genius of Gold Rush, Parker Schnabel's story has taken a devastating turn. Known for his unmatched work ethic and instinct for finding gold in even the harshest conditions, Parker is now behind bars, not behind the wheel of his signature excavator. In one of the most shocking environmental legal cases in recent mining history, Schnabel has been sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole and all appeals exhausted. His gold empire, once an unstoppable force in the industry, has been frozen in its tracks. This is the same Parker who turned a college fund into a booming gold mining business, who by age 24 had already pulled more than $13 million worth of gold from the earth. A household name thanks to Gold Rush. He made mud entertaining and turned hard labor into ratings gold. During season 14 alone, his operation generated $24 million in revenue. Yet now all that money, including the $16 million earned this year, is locked up. Investigations are underway into his Dominion Creek claims, and fans are left stunned, asking one simple question: how did one of television's hardest working miners end up behind bars? Pressure was nothing new to Parker Schnabel. From his teenage years, he thrived under it. Season after season, he pushed his limits, and season 15 looked to be no different. With gold prices skyrocketing, he was positioned for yet another record-breaking haul. His goal? An eye-popping 10,000 ounces, worth over $26 million. But chasing that number came at a steep cost. To meet his target, Parker needed speed, scale, and zero setbacks. So he made a bold move. He spent $5 million to acquire two major gold claims, Gold Run and Sulphur Creek. These weren't just ordinary plots. They were historic mining grounds with a collective yield of $5 billion in gold over the past 100 years. But the terrain was unpredictable. The ground already stripped in places and legal liabilities loomed. Still, Parker saw opportunity. He transferred his largest wash plant, Big Bob, from Cannon Stewart's claim to Sulphur Creek, a grueling 25-mile move, the farthest he'd ever attempted. He gave his crew just 10 hours to pull it off. It was an audacious ask, nearly impossible. But they delivered. Bob was up and running, and within days, results poured in. The plant produced over 290 ounces in 4 days, worth $766,000. Combined with another 276 ounces from Roxanne's elbow cut, Parker's team surpassed the 6,000-ounce milestone. On paper, the gamble had paid off, but underground, problems were surfacing. As his crew dug deeper into Dominion Creek and Bridge Cut, warning signs began to emerge. And when Big Red, his trusted wash plant responsible for over $53 million in gold, finally broke down after 12 seasons, the pressure intensified. Its failure removed Parker's safety net, leaving only Bob and Roxanne running. With no room for mistakes, everything had to go perfectly. Unfortunately, it didn't, and that's when everything began to unravel. What Gold Rush fans didn't see on television was the storm brewing just out of frame. While Parker Schnabel raced to expand his mining empire and hit record numbers before the cold set in, he was also walking straight into legal peril. In his aggressive push for profit, Parker began cutting corners. He entered into hasty private contracts to secure neighboring claims, deals that conveniently bypassed crucial environmental reviews. The trouble started the moment his crew broke ground at Sulphur Creek. At first, the concerns seemed minor. There were murmurs about missing permits, disturbances to a federally protected waterway, and forgotten fuel tanks rusting beneath the soil. But answers weren't easy to come by. And the first signs of trouble, a delayed inspection, unannounced government site visits, quietly began stacking up. Few noticed, but the red flags were there. As Parker's team operated around the clock, moving mountains of gravel through ecologically sensitive zones, those warnings turned into legal warnings. Subpoenas followed. Then came the real blow. Federal prosecutors filed sweeping environmental charges against Parker. These weren't minor infractions. They were serious. Allegations included unauthorized dredging, destruction of protected waterways, and improper disposal of hazardous waste, all linked to the $5 million Sulphur Creek deal. Once investigators started digging deeper, the situation worsened. They uncovered missing documents, fast-tracked approvals, and worst of all, inspection reports allegedly falsified by subcontractors, reportedly under Parker's direct instruction. What had once been a show about ounces of gold transformed into a legal thriller focused on pages of evidence. In court, prosecutors claimed Parker had deliberately pushed operations beyond legal limits to hit his ambitious 10,000-ounce goal. They painted a picture of a man so driven by results that he ignored warnings, disregarded regulations, and put the surrounding environment, and by extension, public safety, at significant risk. The numbers presented in court were damning. There were 68 confirmed violations, more than 3, $1 million in unauthorized site work, toxic soil readings near machinery, and over 8,000 gallons of hydraulic fluid unaccounted for. Parker's defense team scrambled. They argued that these were innocent mistakes, that third-party contractors had mishandled responsibilities, and that any missing paperwork was due to bureaucratic delay, not intentional wrongdoing. But then came the emails. In one exchange, Parker explicitly urged his team to maintain constant production and not let interference slow us down. That line, and others like it, echoed throughout the courtroom and heavily influenced the jury's perception. Things worsened when a former crew member testified, claiming Parker had been repeatedly warned about the legal risks and chose to proceed regardless. The result was crushing. Prosecutors presented a clear pattern of reckless behavior and systematic violations. Charges ranged from environmental destruction to document falsification, and eventually even obstruction of justice. The court declared Parker's actions as demonstrating willful disregard for federal law, which triggered the harshest sentencing parameters. But curiously, there was no public mugshot, no media circus at a courthouse. Parker simply disappeared from the public eye, prompting speculation. Some whispered of behind-the-scenes deals. Others claimed restitution talks were underway. Whatever the case, the golden boy of mining was gone, and his empire frozen in silence. What the public didn't see coming was the total silence that followed. While speculation swirled, there were no official statements, no press releases, not even a cryptic social media post, just silence. That quiet was louder than any denial or explanation could have been. Because this wasn't just anyone. It was Parker Schnabel, the breakout star of Gold Rush, and the face of one of Discovery Channel's most successful franchises. He wasn't just a miner. He was a symbol of grit, success, and perseverance. By the time he was 24, Parker had unearthed over $13 million in gold, fronted 8 spin-offs, including Parker's Trail, and by season 14 alone, raked in over $24 million. And then, seemingly overnight, he disappeared. Parker was never one to flaunt his wealth. While many in his position might indulge in luxury homes or exotic cars, Parker remained remarkably grounded. At the height of his fame, he admitted to sleeping on a friend's couch in Los Angeles rather than splurging on a Hollywood lifestyle. Instead of status symbols, he invested in experiences, trips with his father, bonding weekends with his team, tickets to big games, and occasional getaways to Vegas. For him, it was never just about the money. It was about memories, loyalty, and legacy. That grounded mindset came from his heritage. Parker was raised in a family built on resilience. His great-grandfather carved a life out of the Alaskan wilderness. His grandmother joined him in 1937. His father still rises before dawn each day to work. Surrounded by such unwavering examples of endurance and commitment, Parker learned early on to push through pain and persevere through adversity. One of his most cherished memories was a summer spent working side by side with his grandfather, sharing stories and meals. An experience he later said he wished he had recorded. To Parker, those personal moments far outweighed any gold bar. And yet, that same legacy is now hanging in the balance. Season 15 was hyped as his biggest achievement yet, a triumphant comeback with a lofty 10,000-ounce gold target. But instead, it became known as the season where everything fell apart. Equipment failures, regulatory setbacks, and a storm of legal trouble derailed everything. While Parker stayed determined and driven, trying to push forward harder and faster than ever, the weight of it all proved overwhelming. Dominion Creek was supposed to be his masterstroke. This time, Parker didn't lease the land, he bought it outright, putting down $15 million in a single, non-refundable payment. That bold move gave him full control, but also full exposure to risk. And the gold wasn't easy pickings. It was buried deep, over 40 feet underground. Extracting it required massive upfront investment in gear, labor, and time. Still, the numbers were enticing. Dominion was estimated to hold 80,000 ounces of gold. At $2,000 an ounce, that meant a potential yield of $160 million. But there was a ticking clock. Parker had just 6 years left on the water licenses and environmental permits needed to mine. If the permits weren't renewed, any remaining gold in the ground would become a complete financial loss. So, Parker did what he always did. He went all in. His crew began moving dirt at unprecedented scale, over 4 million yards a season, totaling a projected 25 million banked yards over the life of the claim. Once expanded, that material became closer to 30 million yards. The physical toll was immense. This was not a safety net situation. Delays meant dollars lost. Missed ounces meant irrecoverable value. Parker had no margin for error. He wasn't just betting on the land. He was betting on himself, his team, and their unrelenting work ethic. By now, the pressure had taken its toll. Rumors surfaced that Parker was in protective custody. Others speculated he was negotiating restitution in private. No one knew for sure. The only certainty was that something broke. Perhaps not in his equipment, but in the man himself. For someone who built a career on perseverance, that silence was a devastating turn. Parker Schnabel didn't back down when the pressure rose. He doubled down. Instead of cutting losses, downsizing, or retreating, he expanded. He purchased more land, scaled his operations, and signed a major royalty agreement with Metallic Minerals, securing exclusive rights to mine a 12-kilometer stretch of Australia Creek. That deal alone came with a $1 million minimum annual commitment, plus additional royalty payments for each ounce of gold extracted. With that, his responsibilities ballooned. Dominion was already a massive undertaking, and now he had another full-scale mining project under Little Flake Mining's control. The stakes were higher than ever, and the margin for error had all but disappeared. With potentially $200 million in long-term gold production hanging in the balance, Parker demanded excellence from his crew. There was no tolerance for excuses or slow pace. Anyone who couldn't handle the intense pressure was quickly cut loose. The workload was relentless, and as the operation grew, so did the stress. Each equipment breakdown, each lost day due to weather, each ounce missed from the target quota added strain to both the business and the people behind it. That's when the cracks began to show in Parker's relationships. He and Rick Ness, once close allies, barely saw each other during the season. In fact, Parker met Rick in person only twice all summer. Once for a serious on-camera discussion about a personal challenge Rick was facing. Outside of that, they operated in different spheres. The same was true for his dynamic with Tony Beets. Years ago, they clashed regularly over land, permits, and royalties. But now, with Parker owning his ground and holding his own permits, there was less friction, and also less interaction. A few casual coffees replaced once heated debates, signaling a new phase of independence, but also isolation. That isolation grew heavier as the demands of Dominion mounted. With limited outside support and a relentless pace to maintain, Parker kept his head down and pushed forward. At the same time, he was fulfilling his public promises, finalizing his deal with Metallic, leading a 400-hole drill program, and earning accolades like the Robert E. Leckie Award for Environmental Stewardship in 2022. Yet just 2 years later, he found himself facing legal scrutiny, proving how quickly things can shift in the mining world. Despite it all, Parker remained true to himself. No lavish lifestyle, no celebrity ego. He lived modestly, on friends' couches in L.A., in Mexico, or in the Bahamas, always moving, always grinding. Some see that drive as inspiring. Others see it as the very thing that pushed him too far. By 2024, his estimated net worth sat around $8 to $10 million. Surprisingly modest for the face of one of Discovery Channel's most successful franchises. Parker Schnabel has never lived like a millionaire, despite earning like one. He doesn't flaunt luxury watches or build a garage full of exotic cars. Most reports say he doesn't even own more than one home, a modest 2,000-square-foot house in Haines, Alaska, built in 2015 on private land by a lake. With its metal roof and wood frame, it's far from flashy. At one point, rumors suggested he purchased a $950,000 mansion, but Parker shut them down immediately, saying he was essentially homeless and preferred crashing on friends' couches. For most, that would seem like a quirky exaggeration, but for Parker, it's believable. This is the same guy who spent his entire college fund not on education, but on mining equipment and ground leases. While his peers were picking dorms, he was selecting gold claims and digging through permafrost. Dominion Creek wasn't his first big gamble. It was just his boldest. He invested $17 million into land where gold lay 40 feet beneath frozen earth. Mining there meant shifting 30 million cubic yards of dirt over 6 years, or over 5 million yards annually. The commitment wasn't just physical. It was mental, emotional, and relentless. Dominion was no side project. It was a beast. And Parker, undeterred, scaled his crew, equipment, and responsibilities. He even inked a high-stakes royalty deal with Metallic Minerals to mine a 12-kilometer stretch of Australia Creek, agreeing to a $1 million yearly commitment before a single ounce was recovered. But Parker's vision wasn't limited to Yukon. He took his ambition global, mining in Guyana, Papua New Guinea, Brazil, and beyond. When others hunkered down for winter, Parker was halfway around the world filming Parker's Trail, enduring extreme conditions, navigating foreign logistics, even pushing through altitude sickness at 16,000 feet in the Andes, all while the cameras kept rolling. His mining success, paired with Discovery Channel salaries, streaming rights, merchandise, and sponsorships, reportedly brings him more than $4 million annually. Yet despite the earnings, Parker never chased money. He chased purpose. He sought to honor his grandfather's legacy, protect his crew, and prove a young man from rural Alaska could dominate one of the world's harshest industries. And now, everything is on pause. Dominion's future is uncertain, tied up in legal review. His royalty sites are quiet, and the momentum he built sits in limbo. With Season 15 airing, fans are left wondering, will Parker Schnabel rise from this stronger? Or has the Golden Run finally reached its end? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates and exciting content. Stay tuned and be part of the journey. Thanks for watching.